We'll start first, Hashem, saying 4 Kapitlach Tilim, everybody together, for the Matzav in Eretz Yisrael at present, and then we'll have a few people speaking, and then once more finishing off with another few Kapitlach Tilim.
Kapitel Yud Gimel. Lamnatseach Mizmor LeDavid. Adono, Adono, Tishkacheini Netzach. Adono, Tastir Esponecha Mimeni. Adono, she said to his benafshi, Yogaim Luvavi, Yomam, Yomam. Adono, Yavumoi, Eloi. Abito, Aneni, Adonai, Eloi. Oiroenai, Benishana Moves. Sorai Yagelu Kiemoi. Vani b'chaz b'cha v'tachti Yagel libi b'shuasecha Oshir al Adonai ki gomal aloi.
Kapitel Chaf. Lam Natseach Mizmor LeDavid. Yancha Adonai b'yom tzara Yisagev Hashem Elohei Yaakov. Yiten lecha chilvavecha v'chol atzasecha yimalei. Hashem Eloheinu nidgol Yimalei Adonai kol mish'alosecha. Ata yadati ki Yoshia Adonai Meshicho Yaneu Mishemei Kodsho Bigvuros Yesha Yemino Eloheinu Nazkir. Karu v'nafalu v'anachnu kamnu v'nisoda v'yom karenu.
Kapitel 1 79 מזמור לאסף אלוהים באו גויים מנחלתך טימאו את היכל קודשך שמו את ירושלים לעיר.
On behalf of our whole Kehillah and Vadar Abonim, I would like to express our gratitude, deep gratitude to Kehillah Kedosha, B'nai Jacob, Sha'arei Zion, and its esteemed Rav, Rabbi Hauer, for giving us this Beis HaKnesses and its halls for this special event. Eis tzora hi liYaakov. It is a difficult time for our people. It is a most difficult time for our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, the whole populace of Eretz Yisrael, those who defend it, especially. Two weeks ago, we gathered and davened and said Tehillim for our boys, our 3 boys, and the situation. Their fate was sealed at the outset. And these tefillos, what are with them? What happened to them? Were they chas v'sholem a tefillas shov, as the Mishnah refers to at times? I think it's so clear. Their fate was sealed at the outset, but those tefillos, especially those that were genuine and came from the heart, from people in Eretz Yisrael and from people all over the world, millions of our brethren davened. Look what's happening in Eretz Yisrael today. We prayed, we davened, we beseeched the Rebbeinu Shalom to protect them, to protect our people. When our enemies rained over more than 1,000 rockets over on our people, look what has happened or what has not happened, Baruch Hashem. And with a resounding amen, the Rebbeinu Shalom should help that nothing should happen, and he should continue, the Hinei lo yonum v'lo yishon shema Yisrael should continue to protect his people. But take a look. What should have happened b'derech hateva? Statistics, take statistics when you have something like that. So their guidance system doesn't work well, but why does it happen that it falls into empty fields? Why? Can you not see so clearly the yad of the Rebbeinu Shalom? There's a Rebbeinu Shalom that is guiding things. We are a people that believe in Hashgacha, and Hashgacha Pratis. And anybody that has an open mind and open eyes, that wants to look honestly and doesn't have their own agendas, will see that there's a Rebbeinu Shalom that is protecting his people. So were these tefillos not answered? You see the product of these tefillos almost immediately. What the Rebbeinu Shalom's cheshbon were for those boys is not something that we know. Somebody that doesn't have Ruach HaKodesh. But genuine tefillos are answered. It is an eis tzara. We gathered, as I said, 2 weeks ago. And something happened at that time, and I don't just mean in our community, I mean in Eretz Yisrael, in the Goyla, wherever it was, there was something that was, I would call, transformational. And it was a magical moment. I think all of us, who wanted to at least, felt an achdus that almost they never felt before. I say that about myself, and there was a certain emotion within me that was touched that I don't think I was ever touched like that before. The message of parents who don't know what's happening with their child, who plead, but their message of emunah and a belief in the Rebbeinu Shalom, and whatever happens, it's coming from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Especially this message from the women, the mothers of these children, of these boys. It was something that made such an impression, I think, on all of us. But a second thing, and this is what I would like to talk about mostly right tonight, is the achdus that was felt. We felt that we were one. It didn't make a difference of who it was. I happened to have been in Eretz Yisrael at the time, and there was something that was so remarkable. In the Knesset, gathered together, men, women, I'm talking about all the Chavrei HaKnesset, from the most rabid, anti-religious ones, to what we refer to as Charedim Lidva Hashem, and people who davened who never davened before, and davened together. We're one people. We're different bodies. And when you look at yourself as a body, when you look at yourself as a bosar, v'dam, then we have our needs and desires, and that's when we're selfish and we think about ourselves. But when we take on a different kind of a persona, the one who we really are, our nefesh, our neshama, a heilige neshama, a holy neshama that the Rebbeinu Shalom gave to Klal Yisrael. We all come from one source, one big neshama, we're one. And when a person lives a spiritual life and looks at life in a spiritual way, and not just to fulfill what he wants and what he needs, but we're anoshim more ruchniim, then we're one. And that's when you can feel that. And it was this moment, was this that happened then, that I say again can be and should be a transformational moment. We know Chazal talk about when there's shalom bayis, when husband and wife smile at each other, when there's peace and happiness and contentness between the two, the Shechina Shora B'neihem, there's Shechina in the home. That's where the Rebbeinu Shalom wants to rest his Shechina HaKdosha. Shalom bayis is achdus. That's achdus. It's achdus between husband and wife. If we want the Rebbeinu Shalom to rest his Shechina amongst us, to find a dira b'tachtonim, a resting place here on this earth, and especially in Eretz Yisrael, that's his mokum. There has to be achdus. there has to be a feeling of warmth and love and respect and care and concern for your fellow Yid and for your fellow man as a Tzelem Elokim. The part of, I would like to, the Rabbanim met together, and all of us felt that, again, this was a special moment, and we can't lose this moment. If it was a moment that we saw and felt, Achdus, what is it that we can do to enhance that? Enhance that each one as an individual, but as a community together. It's not a good idea to take on grandiose ideas. They usually have no lasting effect. What I'm saying, this is not mine, this is it's coming from the Rabbanim. It sounds like a modest proposal, and it is. It's a modest proposal, and it's a gesture. What we're suggesting is a gesture, but a gesture that has meaning, and a gesture that has a message in it, and a message to it. You meet somebody in the street, you have a benchmate in shul or somebody else, acknowledge the person, say hello. Say hello. I'm not living in a world by myself. I'm not just thinking of myself. I'm thinking of you. You have meaning. You have kavod. Do you know what it means when a person is recognized? Who doesn't want that? It's not so major, but it has major underpinnings of understanding of what another person is. Messages mean a lot. You walk into a door, and there's a mezuzah on the door that you put up. There's a mezuzah on the door, which the Gemara refers to as a mitzvah kala. It's a mitzvah that is easy to be makayim. Mezuzahs used to be extremely cheap, and you can go and you put a mezuzah on the door. What did he do already? But you know what he did? He did first the will of the Rebbeinu Shalom. The Rebbeinu Shalom asked us to do that, and we did it. But then think for a second. You walk into the door, and you see on the doorpost a mezuzah, and I think to myself, it says in it that there's a Rebbeinu Shalom. And it says it in the Rebbeinu Shalom that's Echad. And it talks about my obligation to keep mitzvahs and my belief in Hashgacha. And I think for a second as I walk into the door, I believe in this. This is me. And it gives me an opportunity to think instead of just walking in and just thinking about mundane things. Says the Ramban, I have been mekayem my tachlis. This is my purpose in life. That's what I was created. To know a Rebbeinu Shalom and to live with him. And I have just been mekayem that concept. I have fulfilled my goal and mission. So it's a mitzvah kala. But if you just think a little about it, and it's the message that there is in it, it's monumental. I say again, you say hello to the person who's walking opposite you. You show concern for, I say, your benchmate, or somebody outside in shul that's standing by himself. or herself, and you recognize them, and you make them feel like somebody, that people are interested in me, I can't tell you what you have just done to the world, to the Rebbeinu Shalom and for his people. So yes, people might make fun about us. Okay, now we're Baltimore, the city that greets. Okay, I am proud. If this happens, I can't tell you what we have done. We have recognized people. We have created more of an achdus because you're sending a message to that person. You're one, you mean something to me. That's what achdus is all about. In Shir HaShirim, Moshcheni, acharecha norutza, you've drawn me. Klal Yisrael says, Moshcheni, you've drawn me, you, Rebbeinu Shalom, have drawn me close. When he took us out of Mitzrayim, and acharecha norutza, I ran after you to the desert. Heviani hamelech hadorav, naskira doidecha meyoyin. First, acharecha norutza nogila v'nismecha bach. We say, Rebbeinu Shalom, once more, we're in Golus, but nogila v'nismecha bach. We want to be happy with you. We would like to be happy with you. And I would like to tell you a medrash that every time I see this medrash, it just brings tears to the eyes. A couple came to Reb Shimon ben Yochai. They were childless after 10 years. And they decided they wanted to build a family. And they saw it wasn't happening and it wasn't going. And they decided to part ways, to divorce. And they went to Reb Shimon ben Yochai, the holy Tana Reb Shimon ben Yochai. And Reb Shimon ben Yochai, listen what he tells them. Just like when you got together on your wedding day, you made a big feast. Now that you decide to divorce, make a big feast. Meaning to say, because this is not out of animosity, chas v'sholem, this is because you want to build something, at least recognize it so. So they go home and they make a big feast. And they invited people. And he drank too much. The husband drank, and he drank too much, and he becomes shikar. And when he sobers up a little and realizes what is happening, where they're going, he tells his wife, who he loved dearly, he tells her, take anything from this house, whatever is, the greatest treasure in the house, take it. It's yours. Meaning to say, he's trying to show her the feelings are feelings of love, but what can we do? We need to do this. And he falls asleep. He falls asleep. And the wife tells the servants, take his bed with him on it and take him to my father's house, which must have been very close by. They take him to his house, and in the middle of the night, he wakes up and he says, where am I? And she says, you're in my father's house. What am I doing here? So she says to him, you told me to take what is most precious and dear to you, and I took it. I took you. I took you with me. So the Medrash says, they now come back to Reb Shimon ben Yochai. Va'omad v'hispalel aleihem. And he davened for them, v'nifkedu, and the Rebbeinu Shalom remembered them with a child, with a pregnancy. L'lamedcha. So the Medrash says, listen to a Medrash. V'harei dvorim kal v'chaymer. Learn a lesson from this. If you can see something from this action, learn a lesson. Umayim basar v'dom. If you look at human beings, al she'omar lebasar v'dom she'kemotzai, because she told another person, a human being, ein li chayfetz ba'olam tov mimcha. There's nothing more precious in the world than you. That was the reason that Reb Shimon ben Yochai's tefillah was able to help, because of those words, and that's why it's nifkedu. That's why we were remembered. That's why they were remembered. So therefore, Yisrael, our people, our holy people, Klal Yisrael, Hamechakim Yeshuas HaKodesh Baruch Hu, that are so eagerly awaiting the Rebbeinu Shalom's salvation, B'chol Yom, V'oimrim, and they say, Ein lanu chayfetz tov ba'olam elo ato. There's nothing more precious to us than you, Rebbeinu Shalom. Al achas kama v'kama. How much more so are those tefillos answered? Hevei nagila v'nismecha boch. That's the words in Shir HaShirim. Our happiness and our joy is in you, Rebbeinu Shalom, in your Torah, as the Medrash says, Nagila v'nismecha bach. This is our desire, this is our happiness. Words. Words are precious. Gestures are precious. When you tell somebody else and you make them feel, Ein li chafetz ela bach. When your spouse feels from you, when your children feel from you, when your friends and your acquaintances hear precious words, nice words, soothing words, words that have words of affection and love. Those are the words that are so meaningful. Those are the words that the Rebbeinu Shalom loves. And when the Rebbeinu Shalom hears those words from us in our relationship towards him and him towards us, we are, as it says in Shir HaShirim, we're like a spouse with the Rebbeinu Shalom. We're a spouse. We were married at Har Sinai and wedded at the Mishkan. And these are words, these are precious words. And when the Rebbeinu Shalom hears words that are true, they're genuine, Was ken sein größer? What could be more important? Then we're nifgedu, then he remembers us. I would just like to end with the Navi says, and we say, Oid Yishoma ba'ore Yehuda u'v'chutzos Yerushalayim. The Navi had previously said, Yirmiyahu, that the sounds and the joy of it, hearing the voices of a chosin and a kala will not be heard in the streets of Yerushalayim. But then he promises later, Oid Yishoma, the day will come that we will hear once more the joy and the happiness in the streets of Yerushalayim of kol sasan v'kol simcha, kol chosin v'kol kala. And I once heard an explanation, a wonderful explanation. We are standing now bein hamtzorim. The city's walls were pierced and broken. And if nothing happens, there's going to be a Tisha B'Av, when the first and the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. And we know the Maimar Chazal that came about because of Sinas Chinam. because of sinas chinam. Sinas chinam means instead of showing care and concern, you showed the lack of concern to your friend, to others, didn't mind talking about somebody else, didn't mean anything to you. And Chazal say that that's why the Churban Habayis came about. So we say, the Navi says, do you know the kinds of voices, the kinds of talk that one day will once more be heard in the streets of Yerushalayim? The same kind of talk that you hear between a chassan and a kala, a new married couple, the most precious words, the most affectionate words, the most loving words, the most considerate words between a couple, between each other, is between a chassan and a kala, a brand new chassan and kala. Those are the words that we once more will hear in the streets of Yerushalayim, between each one of us. Those kinds of words, words of kol sasan v'kol simcha, kol chasan v'kol kala, smooth, soothing words, affectionate words, loving words, kind words, concerned words. Those are the words that we're going to hear. That's what creates achdus. That's what creates a feeling one for another. Let it be the will of the Rebbeinu Shalom that the fast of the 4th, and the fast of the 5th, and the fast of the 7th month, and the fast of the 10th month will change, as the Nabi says, Yahapach l'sasainu l'simcha, with the coming of the Bios Goel Tzedek, Yimheir of Yomeinu, Amen.
My Rabbi Hapfer asked me to speak on behalf of the other Rabbanim here today, so I speak to you, B'rshus Rav Hapfer, B'rshus all of the Rabbanim, and B'rshus all of you. On the day that the bodies of our 3 precious boys, Gilad, Naftali, and Eyal, were found, the Rabbanim decided on that day that the community needed to come together to daven, to come together to mourn, and to see what we can do together to grow from this tragedy and from all that it brought out in Klal Yisrael worldwide. Since then, so much has happened. Today, the firing of missiles on Israeli cities and the efforts of the chayalim, of the soldiers, to respond effectively would in and of themselves have warranted, of course, for us to come together as a kehillah. Just for that. To daven and hope that this time our tefillas will be received and accepted in the way that we all hope. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu grant the chayalim success in their work on behalf of Klal Yisrael. That He grant us true and lasting shalom ba'aretz, and that every one of Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael emerge from this conflict safe, healthy, and strong. Just in the hour before this gathering began, we learned the name of the first person to be killed in this campaign, in this war, Dor Chanin, a Lubavitcher Chassid, who went to the Gaza border to bring food to the soldiers fighting there, and was struck by a mortar and killed. Hashem Yikaim Damai. Just in the past hour, someone told me that a missile struck in an open field and killed 40 cattle in one blow. A friend who's moved from Baltimore to Eretz Yisrael and not living in Yerushalayim, but living in Rehovot, a little bit more in the line, reported on the dozen times that his family has had to run, including 4 times today, as of that writing, to their miklat, and sent the instructions of the children that they received from school, from their rebbeim, from their teachers, about what they must do. All of this warrants for us to be completely mindful, to be completely sharing in what Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael are experiencing, to be mispalel, to pray as we will do, Be'ezus Hashem, yet again today together, that all, Be'ezus Hashem, should be resolved well and safely. But we do as well want to take forward, as Rabbi Hapfer spoke, what we experienced, Klal Yisrael experienced, with that last round, with the story of the kidnapping. It was a crushing disappointment when we got that news that the boys' bodies had been found. It was a disappointment that could have triggered a crisis of faith, but really it couldn't have, because we were very fortunate. We were fortunate to have before us, as Rabbi Hapfer mentioned, examples of emunah, of faith, that were simply unbelievable. How could we, across an ocean, dismiss our faith when the mothers, the fathers of these children stood before us as such pillars of emunah, of faith? What made them so strong in the face of such an unspeakable tragedy, such an incredible, incredible experience of adversity? There are certainly many answers to that question. Each of them remarkable people, remarkable families. But there's one part of the answer that we need to think about here today, and I want to speak about you today. And that is that what made them, part of what made them strong, part of what made their emunah withstand this, was you, was all of us, was Klal Yisrael everywhere that was with them, worrying for them, davening for them. Don't take my words for it. I want to share with you their words, the words of the mothers. Bat Galim Shar, addressing her son Gilad, Hashem Yikom Damo. There's a whole nation here waiting with us for you, looking forward to your coming home. In Israel and throughout the world, they have united in anticipation of your return. And when you do come home, you'll discover that our family has really grown, that you have brothers and sisters all across the world. Iris Yifrach, the mother of Eyal. Eyal, the whole nation has united worrying about you. We want you home already, and we are waiting to warmly embrace you. And I turn to you, our wonderful Am Yisrael. It so moves and strengthens us to see this nation united across the spectrum through this difficult period we are experiencing together. Let us be strong and embrace one another, and let us daven for the safe return of our sons. And Racheli Frankel, the love that we feel here is keeping the boys strong. This tragic story has shaken us up and brought us together, uncovering for an extended moment the shared foundation of our existence here, our achva, our brotherhood. This morning we visited in Hebron, and we saw bleary-eyed chayalim who had not been home for a long time. We approached them to thank them for their efforts for our sons, and they responded, Ma toda, bishvil ze itgayasnu. Why do you thank us? This is why we enlisted. To do for each other. And this faith continues to sustain them. Mrs. Frankel taught us something which will be a phrase that will be remembered, I think, for generations. Hashem is not our employee. He doesn't respond to our every wish, our every beck and call. We daven, and we know that Hashem does what He wishes. And our emunah continues. Mrs. Frankel, Mrs. Shar, Mrs. Yifrach, they personified for us what the Chazon Ish taught us. That bitachon doesn't mean believing that you're going to have that happy ending that you dreamed about. But bitachon means that what happens to us doesn't just happen to us. That we each have a destiny and that Hashem is with us in all that we experience, for better or Rahman al-Islam, for worse. That we are never alone. And so, when we think about this, perhaps we can realize and recognize that this idea of being there with each other is not just a nice gesture bein adam l'chaveiro, but it is also something which is the seeds and the foundation of our emunah, of our faith itself. The Maharal explained that when the Talmud tells us that Avram Avinu used to bring people to believe in Hashem by welcoming them to his house, to his tent, wayfarers, travelers, and he would offer them food and drink, and when they finished, they would get up and they would want to thank him. And he said, "You're thanking me? You think I fed you? Hashem fed you." What did he mean? And the Maharal explains that these people were travelers, peddlers, traveling through heat and difficulty just to be able to bring home something. They had nothing to eat. They felt forsaken. They felt completely alone. And when Avram Avinu, when he welcomed them in, he told them, don't just let this restore your faith in man, but let it restore your faith in God. Hashem puts people in the world, and he gives each of us the ability, the wherewithal, the resources to be there for others. That's the way Hashem takes care of us. Those travelers traveled and they said, how is God leaving me to all of this? And Avram Avinu responded and answered, you're not alone. You're not alone from man, and you're not alone from God. And isn't it the case, don't we know it to be the case, that bitterness, that lack of faith grows in a world and in a framework of loneliness? And if we only could step forward, as Rabbi Hapfer suggested, as the Rabbanim are asking, if we can step forward and commit ourselves to do one simple thing, to make Baltimore back into a small town. A small town where everybody knew everybody, or acted as if they did. Where when people walked through the streets and saw a Jew, it was like when you walk through an airport in Texas or in China and you see a Jew. You walk past them, you say, ah, another Jew. And you greet them like the long-lost brother or sister that they are. Can we be a small town again? Growth is an incredible thing. Look around you, how Baltimore has Kinei Nahara, and it should continue. But it comes at a price. It comes at a price that we don't value each other enough. And sometimes we don't even see each other. Now, we need to be clear that the buck stops here. That we're not standing here as Rabbanim and telling you what you need to do. It's what we need to do. The Torah has a parsha of Egla Arufa. A victim is found, a murder victim. Who killed him? And the elders, the rabbanim of the city nearby, they come forth and they say, we didn't kill him. And the Mishnah asks and says, were they on the top of the list of suspects that they have to say, we didn't kill them? And the Mishnah answers and says, no. What they're saying is not, of course, that we didn't kill them. But we didn't see this person come through our town and let them pass through without giving them food, without accompanying them. We were proactive. But I want to ask you a question. I still don't understand. Was that the job of the rabbis of the city? That anybody who came through, they should feed them and they should accompany them out of town? I can only think of two possible answers to the question. One is that yes, it is. It is our job, the Rabbanim of the city, to make sure that everyone feels welcome, not just people who pass through, but people who live here. And if one would say that perhaps it's a little too much to expect, so if we can't do it all ourselves, we still have to set the tone. We have to walk the walk. We have to do anything that we can to make it the culture of our community. We need to do it by example. We need to do it by messages, by everything we can, to make it the culture of our community that, yes, that we're a small town again. That She'elas Shalom, that great value of reaching out to each other, to say hello, to go beyond hello, to concern ourselves with another. That becomes our way. But I must make one more point. Because, as we all know, what glowed from us during the period of this terrible tragedy and drama of a couple of weeks ago was the rare experience of an achdus that transcended all of the usual groupings in Klal Yisrael. During that time, we had a chance to reach out and say to Klal Yisrael, every part of Klal Yisrael, to every other part of Klal Yisrael, that we love them. And this time we got to say it without any ifs, ands, or buts. Yes, we often say, we love you, but let me tell you how we disagree with you. Why I think that this is the way and this is not the way. And of course, there are differences, and there are significant differences and material differences, and we don't paper them over. We're people living for a purpose, and we have strong feelings about how to fulfill that purpose. But it's always, we love you, but. And for 18 days, Klal Yisrael was just saying, plain and simple, we love you. And I don't know anyone who didn't find that exceptionally refreshing, incredibly welcome. There's so much we say to each other, about each other, at each other. How often do we take the chance to just express plain and simply how we love each other? How we're one people, mamash, brothers and sisters. So we have grown apart. People feel, lots of people, alien from fellow Jews whose hashkafa or lifestyle doesn't line up with theirs. And they really don't like that. And I hear it all the time when it comes to this greeting thing. You pass people in the street, you try to say hello, they pass by as if they didn't hear you. Now, I'm convinced, because so often it happens to me, I like to be careful about this. So often it happens, you're absorbed in a conversation with somebody, and by the time you realize the person said hello to you, you're down the street. But so often I hear, sometimes I feel, they didn't say hello to me because I'm not as frum as them, or because I'm frummer than them, or I don't dress like them, or don't look like them. And again, I think lots of the time it's an imagined slight. But why do we imagine it? Why do we imagine it? Because we don't say to each other, to those who are different than us, enough, that we are brothers, that we care for each other, that we love each other. So that's our ask, to bring this back in the street, in shul, in the hallways, in the stores, at the gas station. Hang up the phone and say hello to the people around you. I see you here. Every Wednesday afternoon, you go shopping and I go shopping. What's your name? I see you here. We daven in the same shul. I never saw you before. Are you new? Forgive me if you've been here for 25 years. We need to make it a small town again. And specifically, to go over, to reach out to those who look different than you, who may not be your natural friends, your natural circle. If there's a place in the Jewish world where this can be done, it is here. And we must do it, and we must lead. And while this is an appeal to make us back into a small town, it really is an appeal to do what we can to build the Ir Shechubra Lo Yachtav, the big city of Yerushalayim that will bring us all together. Aaron HaKohen was called in the Mishnah, Oyev Shalom V'Reidev Shalom. He loved peace and he pursued peace. He would greet people, strangers, who were different than him in the street. He would pursue people who had arguments and find ways to bring them together. That's what the Mishnah says, and the Maral is troubled. He says, I don't get it. Chazal tell us all these stories, but in the Chumash, where do you see that Aaron loved peace and pursued peace? And the Maral says something so important. He says he had to. He had to. Aaron was the Kohen Gadol. He served in the Beis HaMikdash. And in Judaism, we have one Beis HaMikdash. All of the Jewish people are members of that same Beis HaMikdash. And if they're not, if they can't join together in that Beis HaMikdash, there is no Beis HaMikdash. And if there's no Beis HaMikdash, there's no Kohen Gadol. If there's to be an Aaron Kohen HaGadol, there has to be Shalom. So that was what he had to do. He had to reach out. He had to pursue peace. He had to make sure that everybody got along. So my friends, we need to get some practice, because the day will come, Be'ezus Hashem, very soon, when we won't be able to choose the shul that we daven in or don't daven in, the minyan we go to or wouldn't go to. The day will come, Be'ezus Hashem, very soon, where we won't be able to choose to go to the Aguda or Shomrei, Glen or Suburban, Rabbi Goldberger's or Rabbi Berger's. We're all going to go to one big, beautiful shul. We're going to go there whether the service is fast or slow, whether they sing a lot or a little. We will not have to worry about the drushes. There won't be any. And we're going to sit there with everyone, those we have chosen to sit with in the past and those we have not. So why don't we start now and get comfortable with each other, wherever we feel we belong, because in the end we all belong together. In the words of the Slicha that we said this morning, She'enu shechein rumah v'kabetz nefutzoseinu mikitzvos adamah. Turn to us, Hashem, who dwells on high, and gather us from all the four corners. May your hand again reach out to claim this trembling nation, this frightened nation, and may you tell Zion to arise, and transform the 17th of Tammuz to a day of salvation and consolation. We will conclude with a few more kapitlach of Tehillim.
Kapitel Kuf Chaf. Shir Amalai, Sel Adonai B'tzarasali, Karasi V'yaneni. Yitzegi Bar Shinuni, Mim Gachale Risamim. Ki garti meshech shachati malei kedar.
Ezrim Adonai, oisei shamayim bareh. Yanum Shemrecha. Hinei la yanum v'la yishan shaymer Yisrael.
Hotzi hamimafker nafshi lahodoi seshemecha. Biachtirut tzadikim kisigmal Amen.